Welcome to the Don Pod, the supporters podcast. Here's your hosts, Sam and Nate.
3, 2, 1, yeah!
The Dons slip up in round one, falling to the old enemy Hawthorn, 12-13-85 to Hawthorn 17-9-111. Welcome back to the Don Pod on a sombre, wet, well, it is here at least, wet, miserable Sunday afternoon. Joined by Nathan. Hello.
Hello, Sam, and welcome to everyone. Yes, it's round one's done and dusted. Let's move on to round two. Okay, the review now for round two. We're playing who?
You probably should know that if you're going to start waffling about round two.
Straight into it.
Adelaide, who you're going to get very distracted by over the next 45 minutes to an hour. I can't wait for quarter time.
I'll be focused. I won't look up to the screen.
All right. You'll tap your hat, though.
Don't. Anyway, footy.
Anyway, yeah, look, interesting game, lots to unpack, go through some numbers and then get into it, I suppose. This is the first proper review we've done for a little while where we're not prefacing everything with it's only pre-season. It is not. Caldwell leads the way, 36 disposals, 18 kicks, 18 handballs, 10 clearances, which was a game high, and 476 metres gained, not quite half a kilometre. McGrath 27, Merritt 26. For them, Amon damaging off half-back with 28. In front of the sticks, Merritt kicks 2, Langford 2, Kako Jones, Gresham, Draper, Caldwell, Perkins. 1, disappointed not to be able to throw Cadco in there this week. Young Caddy had a bit of trouble. For them, Watson kicks 3, Hardwick 2, Ginnivan 2. That is 7 goals from small forwards. And Marbior Chol kicks 2. It was a pretty solid game from him, to be honest. He marked well and kicked well. And the hair annoys me because I can't imagine playing football with my peripheral vision blocked out by my hair. But
I described you as like horse blinkers. It's like
odd choice.
Really, pin it back.
You'd think
you want to be able to see.
Yeah, you'd think your peripheral vision's quite important. But anyway, worked for him. Fair enough.
Yeah, that's right.
Langford hamstring injury, which is 4 to 6 weeks. The club put out yesterday.
So is that Langford like 10 weeks? Is that 10 weeks for Langford?
4 to 6 is already a pretty long hamstring.
Yeah, he's a
king. Ridley got smacked in the face and will be out at least next week with a concussion. Scrimshaw offered 3 weeks, despite the fact he will miss 1 with concussion himself.
Yep.
After getting his face split open in a pretty horrible head clash. We'll point out the irony, however. Is that the right use of irony this time?
Let's go with yes.
Okay. Well, doesn't matter. Before we go through stats and stuff, I think just a bit of a general chat. It was frustrating. You and I were sitting here exactly like this and watching it together. We sync up so one of us isn't yelling and screaming
before the other one.
10 seconds.
And the other one's going, what? No, don't. Oh, I didn't. Oh, you ruined it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I said it in the intro. I did think of Liverpool, this will mean nothing to you, and Slippery G a few times, because it was the Slippery G, but also there's a very infamous Stephen Gerrard, who you might know the name.
I know the incident.
Slipped, so Slippery G.
Huh?
Frustrating. And I had watched Richmond and Carlton the night before. I watched Port Adelaide and Collingwood last night. Was not an issue. Port and Collingwood, there are a few drop marks. It was a bit greasy with the humidity. Mm-hmm. But I didn't notice the slipping over. Even Hawthorn were not slipping over in the same way we were. And it killed us in the first half. So often we'd be just about through, just about to kick it, whatever, and they'd just go to the ground.
Oh, it was very much an issue we noticed a lot more probably in that first half where we just, and this is not the biggest issue for the game, but it was really a frustrating thing. Like, why do we keep slipping? Why are we slipping over? Why?
It's avoidable.
Anyway, there were bigger issues during the game, but that one really just irked both of us. That and the Fox 5 replays after every goal. Like, it was painful in the first quarter because Hawthorn
kicked a lot.
So we had to watch all the little cool hand signals that these young Hawthorn players do with each other.
There's a few
I
things.
don't get it. Just what's wrong with the high five? You beauty. Woohoo. Walk back to your position.
There's a few things to unpack there. One is, let's start with the replays. I personally have never noticed so many replays. they seem to be so slow to get back to that camera in the middle of the ground on the ruck contest, which you and I use a lot to see who's in the middle. Like, what's our midfield makeup at these centre bounces? It just seemed to be so slow, and it wasn't just the Hawthorn goals. It wasn't just saltiness because they'd kicked a goal. It was us as well. We were like, come on, like, hurry up. Get back to the fucking middle.
I don't need to see the same set shot 4 or 5 times.
No, once or twice is enough, and it was
just
jarring.
Go cut to the players around the ground, what they're doing. Who's coming
Just go to the middle, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
It was jarring because we had to watch these, as you said, stupid little celebrations. And I'm going to superimpose it maybe like here. Hawthorn are the most arrogant team and they've won nothing.
Well, I found it very frustrating because they've got a couple of players like Kinnevans and Watsons and these guys that think they're, fairly important to the world. But Watson, the kid barely played 3 good games last year. Like he's going to be a good player, no doubt about that. But
they are good players.
A bit humble. Stay humble.
Stay humble. Eh? They're a good team. Let's not beat around the bush. They were very good, and
they're better than us.
We can talk about in the first half. They were so much cleaner. We'll get into that. But guys, you lost in a semi-final last year, so there were at least 4 teams better than you. I think that's how maths works. It is boomery. Like I would pick on you if I didn't agree with you. Just high five and piss off. Like there's a time for it, right? In the last quarter, if you're down, I think you commented on Draper kicked a goal and really tried to get the team up.
Yep.
That's okay. Dylan Moore, I think, kicked a goal in the last quarter that really sunk us. Like that was kind of it. That's the time.
Yep.
That's the time to celebrate like a dickhead.
Well, let's talk about why they beat us.
Should we do the numbers first, and then we?
Yeah, do the numbers.
So, I didn't do the differentials there. Differentials even. We were 37 to 23 effective clearances. Don't know where you've pulled that one from. That's quite impressive. And plus 10 inside 50s.
Yep.
But this is why I got to write it. When you say they scored 5 goals 10 to 7 goals 4, who's they?
Well, we, Essendon, scored 5 goals, 10, 40 points to their 70, 46.
So we were wasteful.
Yeah, whereas we kicked 2 points from centre clearances. They kicked 4 goals, 1 from centre clearances. And we saw that a lot where they just took it out of the centre, kicked it to a tall forward in about the middle of the 50, took a mark and kicked a goal. Now, the point here is that we won clearances. We lost centre clearances, but we won stoppages around the ground. So
smashed them in stoppages around the ground, did we not?
In all that sort of stuff. But our inside 50s and our clearance scores from clearances was horrible. So we were really inefficient in those 2 things. So, that's a skill, possibly, error, or that's just bad football.
What's interesting to me here, you're spot on. Every time we kicked a goal and we thought, come on, just another one and we can get back in it, they'd get it out the middle and it would be 30 out straight in front and they'd take a mark. It happened 2 or 3 times, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened 2 or 3 times. We were minus 4 centre clearances. Yep. However, we were plus 23 stoppage clearances.
Yeah.
Which, to put that in perspective, Hawthorn have had 47 for the season and they've played 2 games. We had 39.
And that came down to, so they kept taking the ball off us. So we were getting the clearances, we were kicking it or handballing, kicking it, and then they were taking those marks. And we saw that on the half back line, that Barris and other guys were doing a lot of that. So there's another one there. The Hawks scored 6 goals, 1 to our 1 goal from intercepts. So they marked the ball 32 to our 25 times and then turned it around and scored. Now, that's not 32 to 25. It's not a massive difference, but they scored 6 goals to 1 from that.
That's a problem.
That's us getting the ball back and then fucking it up, giving it back to them again straight away almost. So it's just, there's things, there's concerns, and this all goes back to the worrying point about this, and I was going to look into this, was defense again, team defense. So they've scored 100 points against us, 100 and what was it?
I'll find it for you. 111, 17 goals.
17 goals I've kicked.
So 26 scoring shots to 25. Just point that out.
The scoring shots are relevant, but the fact that I wouldn't say that 12, 13 is, that's
pretty average. You're doing okay there, yeah.
So, maybe 2 goals more and 2 points left. That's about all you might get.
I'm not suggesting we should have won because we had more.
No, but it's the 26 inside the scoring shots they've had. That's the problem. We need to. The last 3 years, or 2 years, sorry, under Scott, we've been the 4th worst defensive team in the league.
Mm-hmm.
As it sits right now, we are the 4th worst again this round. You know, where I think West Coast are worse. And I had a little look at this. Like, if you look at the ladder, you can see the sort of the how it sits at the moment. It makes us again. So if we cannot get this team defense under control again this year, it's another wasted year, and it started that way again.
Let's talk about some individuals on the back of that. So Mackay didn't have a disposal for the first half.
Yep.
He had 1 tackle at half time, 2 tackles.
2 tackles. And they've scored 10 goals for at half time. So you think that the ball's around his space somewhere?
Yeah, well, disposals isn't the be-all and end-all for a key defender, but you'd expect a few.
You expect a mark.
Just something, yeah.
Yeah.
He was better in the second half, took a few contested marks, and I think by and large,
he got a rev up at half time.
By and large, we were better in the second half. We probably had the better of it for the second half.
Yep.
Ridley concussed went off third quarter.
Yep.
Was it third quarter? I actually thought we were better once Gresham came on. He was solid. I was pretty almost impressed to see him as the sub, and then he came on and was actually quite good. So he starts next week for me. Ridley went off. We seem to get a bit more, a bit more flow. I don't know how you describe it. Pryor was terrible. I have to address that one. He had a few moments where you were just like, what are you doing? There was one, I think it was Amon. Do you remember?
Yep.
Someone was running in forward 50, and he just had to bodyline the ball or bodyline the player, and he did neither. And he just ran away and hit Chol 20 out straight in front.
It was pretty disappointing for a guy that's played 40 or 50 games of AFL football
at a successful club.
The successful club that's his first effort for us. I agree. I don't think he should play next week on that effort, but he probably will because of the Ridley injury, so they might have to keep him. I thought Archie Roberts is a better player than him already.
He was quite good.
Played half of the amount of football. He at least puts himself on the line, puts his body on the line.
Bit of
Dylan
aggro.
Shield could probably join that group because he's someone that I don't think he knows how to put his body on the line. He's all well and good kicking with that shitty left foot of his, but if he doesn't stick his head over the ball at some stage, it's pointless being in our team, mate, because that's our biggest issue is that we've got a whole bunch of pusses that just won't put their head over the footy when it's required. We add an extra guy like Mackay who's not really wanting to put his body on the line, so we're stuck in this shitty team that we think's good. Like, we think Dylan Shield's good, but he's not.
Well, I've got a couple of things to talk about now on the back of that. So, probably elephant in the room we should address as well was Redmond in the midfield.
Oh, yeah, let's start with that.
I'm all for trying stuff. I can't quite figure out why that wasn't a thing in the preseason, if that was what we were thinking. Was it a last-minute thing just to go, maybe we'll chuck Red Dog on Will Day, and I don't know. Yeah. But we certainly looked a lot better when Redmond played in his natural position.
Yep. Well, I don't know if it was a match. The fact that the first quarter we got flogged 6-1 or whatever it was.
And didn't seem like there was a match-up, did there?
No. Redmond did 27% of the CBA. So he did 9 CBAs, I think, and they were all in that first quarter.
Yeah, pretty much.
The third and fourth, third we lost. The second we lost. The third and the fourth were about even. But we looked better structurally around the ground.
Redmond was unsighted in midfield.
Yep, for those next 3. So, and it goes to your point, I agree with that. I don't like that as an experiment round 1. Like, first bounce, round 1, no.
It's almost like a little Kevin Sheedy just going to throw something different.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say with Kevin Sheedy, it probably worked more often than it didn't.
That's true. I don't mind Red Dog on a wing. I think he could work on a wing.
Yeah, you've said that a few times actually over the last
year or two. In the guts. Not when Sardis, Caldwell, Merritt, Durham, those guys.
And Sardis didn't get in there until the second half, and lo and behold, had a handful of clearances and was quite solid.
Yep.
Apart from the fact he kept falling over.
Well, and his kicking was a bit shit too. But I'm going to give him.
He can win the ball.
Winning the ball.
I'm okay for it. I did see a couple of comments about Hobbs and Sardis in the same team, and I kind of agree. Hobbs was a bit. I know he had a very good preseason. He was a little bit lost in it all. I think you kind of... They're both the same kind of midfielder, I think. And when you already can't squeeze one in, how do we expect to squeeze two?
Look, Hobbs, to me, is not a very good forward.
Just needs 2
He's
feet.
a midfielder, and he's a pretty good midfielder. Like, I don't know enough yet to see how good he is. I think Sardis is in front of him, personally, as a midfielder. But Hobbs is another one who can't kick. His weakness, he can't kick. His weakness is he's by foot. His opposite foot is atrocious, and he gets caught out trying to get off it, like get back to his natural side.
Yeah.
As a half forward, he's just hasn't got the nous for the game.
Well, and that's what was so
Not horrible.
Yeah, but that's what was so clear with Gresham coming on.
Yep.
Was he had that, and he had that. Just he was just a class above, which I've not often said about Gresham. You and I were very critical of him early in that Geelong game. He got better.
Yes.
I looked at that and went, that's what we need from you, Gresh. You were clean. You kicked the goals. You had 2 opportunities, I think, and you kicked 2, or did you kick 1? Sorry,
1.
I've literally already said this. Yeah, he had 1 opportunity and kicked 1 goal. Like that. It was a good goal. He took on 2 Hawthorn blokes, got away from him, kicked the goal. Like, just cleaner. The other thing I want to talk about briefly before we go into broader stuff is umpiring, because we were frustrated. A lot. There were numerous times. And what frustrated me the most, and you and I both did the same thing, we had the commentary on listening to it in the first half.
Yep.
Second half, we turned it off. Because I get it. Hawthorn play very intoxicating, fast, nice football to watch. Give them that. But when you're watching as a not Hawthorn supporter, I'd argue a Hawthorn hater, it gets a bit much. And they were not talking about umpiring decisions when they should have. They were complimentary when they were giving these free kicks that I just don't think are free kicks. The rush behind's the obvious one. To me, I thought the rule was if you're under pressure within that 9 metres, you can do what you want. And I've watched Collingwood and Port last night do it 3 or 4 times. Hawthorn did it again later in the game. We did it again later in the game.
Yep.
And arguably, I think it was Shield that did that one and was under less pressure. McGrath. Under less pressure. No, the one that wasn't paid later on.
Oh, right, yeah, sorry, the other one, yes.
That was under less pressure, than McGrath was. And you just go, I know McGrath slipped. And that's probably where the umpire's like, well, you did it. He's still is he under pressure? Yes or no? Yes. Therefore, you can rush the ball. I thought that was the rule. It makes no sense. They get a free kick right in front of goal, killed us. Yep. Draper got pinged for that fingertip on someone's shoulder.
Yep.
They get a goal.
It was a pretty good spoil too. He
very
gave,
good spoil.
Very
good
contest.
chase.
He got to one of their midfielders and did really well there. So
Sicily
it's moments like that kill you.
Sicily put his whole face on someone's head to fend him off, and that was play on. They kick a goal.
That was right in front of an umpire. Didn't even hey.
We never blame them for a loss. I fully believe they never cost you a game. There's so many
things.
They
play better than us. That's not the problem.
Yeah,
but
100%.
It's frustrating.
But it cost us momentum a few times, and it just sucks when you're watching it. That's all. It's so hard to watch, particularly as well. Sorry.
Yep.
We felt like we weren't getting those sort of 50-50 free kicks. You know, we tackled them a few times. They dropped the ball, and we're going, what the? And this is what I'm talking about with the commentary. They wouldn't even address it. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's holding the ball. You can't. Anyway, sorry, go. What were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, I think even from a neutral football observer, that the deliberate one is hard to understand.
Hard. Did you watch Collingwood Port last night?
No, I don't like either of those teams. And
I can't remember who it was. One of them kicked it 30 metres down the line, and he tried to keep it in, like it was bending away from the boundary line, and it bounced at right angles and went towards the boundary and went out, and he got pinged for it. Like, where's the brain? Where's the logic to go, he's tried to keep that in. There was sufficient intent there to keep it in. He can't control that the ball's bounced at right angle. I mean, if he can, fair fucks, by the way. But the defenders just get nothing.
The difference there too is that at least the free kick happens a long way away from the goals.
Yeah, true.
Whereas that free kick isn't straight away. It's a goal. You can't miss the set shot. Well, you could, but
I've seen it happen.
Yeah, but it's such a massive punishment for what you think is the wrong decision. Like, umpires make wrong decisions. I'm okay with that.
Fine.
But the fact that one is so punishing, like that's when the umpire should always err on. No, I don't think it was. Like, it has to be really, really, really obvious that he's handball and he wasn't under pressure.
Yeah.
Like, that would be how I would have expected it to be interpreted.
Yeah.
Not, well, he had a guy sitting on him. And he's handballed it
pretty
over.
much.
Yeah, he had a guy jumped on him and he handballed it over through the goal. Like, that's a little bit down. And they could have. What the other thing too is Hawthorn did a lot of is they put their arms up a lot looking for free kicks. And I don't know if that works, but it obviously did because we don't do that. And I don't want my team to do. I hate guys that look for free kicks. It's not the football players I like. The guys I like got the free kicks because they just went and did the right thing.
There's, I'm a bit on the fence because I in my view, Geelong do it a lot. They have the arms up and all that, and I hate it. I think it's a bad look, but I get it. And I think sometimes there was one early in the game. It was such a non-moment, you won't remember it. Zach Reed got shoved over the goal line after they kicked a point, and I just went, Zach, fall over.
Yeah,
just fall over. You'll get a free kick because he shoved you in the middle of the back, but because you've stayed up.
Yep.
And then I did comment that he'll probably do his hamstring if he did fall over.
That's right. Well, on that, did you think it was good he got through a whole game?
Highlight of the year so far, to be honest. Maybe other than Kako's first goal. That was pretty special.
We should talk about Kako's.
We should talk about Kako, maybe.
Yep, talk about Kako. Go.
Oh, the goal was so lovely. Just opportunistic, quick. Perfect drop punt, by the way. Just unreal off the deck. Classy.
Mid-air.
What impressed me after that, he was in the right position so often. And when he got the ball, he was quick to make decisions. He was quick to go, I'm going to handball that off. Or I'm going to have shot for goal. He kicked a point off a Draper tap that was a lovely little set up and run. But he's just quick to make that decision. And there were a couple of times, I don't remember who it was on the members wing half forward punt right end. I can remember that much, just not who it was. Where we just fucked around with it and kept trying to pass. And me and you like, just take the shot. You are a forward. You are inside 50. Make the bloody decision. And that's what Kako seemed to do. Not necessarily to shoot, but just to make the right decisions and make them quickly, which I like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we could probably talk about quickly Draper, how one of the things that frustrated me was that he seems to have lost the ability to realise he's a ruckman and that goal of the year doesn't have to try and happen at every boundary throw in.
It was frustrating.
He's got to accept that the ruckman's job is not to always take the ball out of the ruck contest, throw in, bounce up, ball up, whatever. He's meant to be hitting it to the little guys as they move past the contest or through the contest, so that then you have momentum. Whereas him taking the ball and turning around trying to run away from the contest barely works. It'll work once every, 15, and it'll look good. But that's not the game plan, especially in the forward 50. If he's going to be the ruck forward down there, which is a great role for him.
And he was, clearly.
Yeah, he's a massive unit. As a ruck forward, he'll pose a threat because that draws their ruckman down there. He has to go down there and deal with it. And our ruckman can stay out and be a bit of an option as a marking thing. So, but he's got to learn with Kako, especially the way you see Kako moves through those contests, hit it to him or hit it to the space in front of him.
Yeah, it was. You're right. It was jarring, and Draper had a good game. I'll take nothing away, but it was so frustrating. And I think he had a talking to at some point because I reckon like the last quarter he didn't do it. He kept trying to tap the ball. Do it. It needs to be an element of surprise thing. It needs to be 1 in every 10.
Yeah,
that you
just
give it a go.
When you're up against the
non-dominant ruckman. Yeah, correct.
Like that's when you can push him away, take the ball, and try the snap. Yep. Not against the actual ruckman, or not every time too. Like because it becomes the midfielders get very aware of it, and they're like, "He's going to take it. Let's just quickly tackle him as soon as he gets it."
A couple more things on the game, and then we'll move into votes and into next week. So we have to have a conversation here about who replaces Langford and Ridley, and I think it's a broader conversation because it's so early in the year. It's not just about ins and outs for next week. I mean, it is ultimately, but to me, Langford is a big loss because he really is the senior head in that forward line.
Yep.
Particularly,
and he's a bit of a unicorn too.
Yeah. Draper's. This is Draper's 9th year on the list, so he's not exactly.
Is it really?
2016 he was drafted, 8th year. Wow. I can do maths. But Langers has been there since like 2015. I think, and a couple of extra years. Probably is a bit more of a leader than Sammy, I reckon. 100%. So it's a big loss when we did look all at sea at times in that forward line, and I'm okay with that because of the makeup of it. Just quietly, Langford's hamstring was the hamstringiest hamstring I've ever seen. He got shot.
Well, I think the broader question too, is that I think that one of the things that really disappointed me about the game was the forward line. Because we talked about how we thought that was going to be a bit of a bit of a strength of ours, coming into the game. And you could argue with those clearance numbers that we saw, that what let us down was, we had good inside 50s. We had more inside 50s. Isn't that correct?
We were up, yep.
Yep. So we had more inside 50s, more clearances, and yet we could not score. So that is, the answer to that is dysfunctional forward line or bad kicking to our forwards. I don't know which one you want to put it down to, but it's a concern. I thought, obviously Langford went off, what did he get, half-time, third quarter?
Oh, it was later on. It was probably late third.
Yeah, okay. So, but at that time, Caddy hadn't kicked a goal, and it didn't. And he took some good marks, but, it wasn't unreal. Draper didn't really mark anything in the forward 50, he dropped a few. Gresham wasn't on, which when he came on, as you mentioned earlier, was really useful.
Yeah.
Kako was unreal for the first game, no doubt about that. But Stuz wasn't there. Perkins was blah.
Perkins actually had a really good game, and if he'd had a better first half, I would have been far more complimentary. But he was very good. He was thereabouts a lot in the second half, which was nice to see. Yep. Keeping in mind he got 3 votes against Hawthorn last year.
Last year was unreal.
But
is the broader question, the forward line, was it a bit stinky, and are there other changes besides the Langford, I guess I'm saying?
So Tom Edwards is the natural choice. Let's just go back to the original question of who replaces him.
Yep.
Who I don't mind. It doesn't help us in that seniority, but I don't know if there's a lot of other options given Pete is injured. So even if he, we had all those conversations about him playing or not, it doesn't matter now.
Yep.
He's 4 to 6 weeks. We've done it for years. And when I was watching Port and Collingwood last night, every time the ball was sort of 60 out, I was like, what are they doing? What are they doing that's different to us? Even Port, I know Port got belted, but
I can't believe that.
They're just, I don't, again, can't articulate it brilliantly, which isn't great for a podcaster. But the movement of their forward line, and this is particularly Collingwood, you'd quite often, and I don't know the players, you'd have a memory would sort of lead up, and that would create a pocket behind where Myercheck would go into. But then the kick would go 45 degrees across goal, and they'd have a bloke leading all by himself. And you just go, oh, they're creating space for each other.
Yeah,
we've done this for years. This is nothing new. And McDonald, Tip and Woody must have had the ball bopped on his head so many times. But we just do it. We just go, but we just go, oh, Cads, you're tall. Your arms are nice and long. Draper, you're tall. We'll just bomb it on your head. There's not a lot of times where we kick inside our forward line and we go, geez, that was a nice kick to their advantage. I think that's particularly when you've got the inexperienced forward line against Sicily, Scrimshaw before he went off, Barras, Battle. You need to... Because there are kicks. Doesn't matter how good of a defender you are, you can't defend.
No, of course. And we saw that, with them going... there was one to Chol, I think, that... what's his name? Reed was chasing after him, and he couldn't have got there because the kick was right out in front. Chol had to dive. Can't do anything about that.
Yep.
So the answer you sound like you're giving is that you want a leading forward. So or do you want us to kick better to our forwards? Because I don't think Draper's that player.
No,
Langford definitely was.
It might just be an awareness thing, it might be a training thing that even if you don't get the ball, and this would not be new to them. I'm fully aware of that. When you lead, you don't have to get the footy. Because there's a flow-on effect to you, one, taking a defender out of a pack, if it does go to a pack. Two, if the defender wants to stay in the pack, guess what? You get a nice free mark.
Yep.
But two, you're creating space for someone else to run into. And this is where the value then of your Kako comes in, is that if he reads the right pack, which is not necessarily a skill, it's an element of luck there, but he's good enough, and there's not as many defenders now around the football, because they've all followed their attacker. I don't know. I just think there's a dysfunction which has been present for 10 years. That I don't know. Maybe they just aren't natural forwards. Caddy screams someone who's played forward his whole life.
Caddy and Kako are clearly natural forwards. Langford's not. But has made the Martin is the one I think that definitely is. But we didn't see a lot of him in the first half.
So look,
Perkins, I think Perkins is,
Yep. I waffled there a bit. It's just a dysfunction, and it is a bit of the inexperience. but it is the dysfunction, and it's fixable if you're just a bit more selfless.
Yep. So your response to Langford going out with all the experience is to bring in a guy that's never played senior football before. Menzies doesn't get a go before him?
No, apples and oranges. They're two different players. You got a tall and a small. Like, that doesn't make sense to me.
But maybe that's what. Look, to go to your point, I think that's what we do wrong sometimes. Is that we bring in talls. We have to bring in another tall. Has to be another. We can never have more small. Like, look, we just talked about Hawthorn. 7 goals were kicked between their 3 small forwards. What's wrong with that?
Nothing at all. What I will say, Tom Edwards looked like a natural forward.
Yeah, and this is not about Tom Edwards. This is about Essendon's mentality towards who plays for us. Like, I think that the tall continue to look for these big gun tall forwards.
You're right.
It hasn't worked for us for years.
You're right.
Maybe we need to look for smalls.
However, I would say that Ginnivan, Wizard, and the rest of the Hawthorn brigade more. Was it more?
Yeah, more. Yeah.
Have a lot more polish. Hardwick as well. Have a lot more polish than Caco's too early. You can't say he does or doesn't.
Yes.
Jai Menzie, no. He's nowhere near the skill and talent of those players I just mentioned. Like, we haven't got that cattle. We would hope that it might be Davey one day.
Yeah.
But right now, I don't see the sense in bringing in a small. It is effective, but you got to have quality smalls. You can't just chuck a small in there and go, well, he's a small.
I guess my point there is I'm trying to change the mindset of the players up the ground that, okay, there's no point bombing it long if they're all small.
Walla?
Yeah, I know, but it was only ever Waller. And
exactly.
We had all the tools around him.
It's not going to bloody change it. I don't know. Gresham starts for me next week, first and foremost. So maybe you can bring Edwards in as a sub. Maybe that's the swap if you want to go a classier small.
I think the problem I have is this goes back to what we talked about earlier was the red dog in the midfield. We played an extra defender during the game with Pryor and Roberts on field, and then we slapped red dog in the midfield, which I found a little bit perplexing.
Now,
the problem I had then that their smalls kicked 7 goals, and one of our, I think, better defenders, red dog, was in the midfield. Pryor, maybe he shouldn't have played, and it should have been red dog back there with Roberts. That would have been my starting.
It's too late for this, but can Redmond be a forward?
Possibly. He loves kicking goals.
This is totally counter my previous point about having forwards that are actually forwards. But this whole conversation started with who replaces Langford. We've really gone off on a tangent there, which is not new for us.
Well, no, I agree with what you're saying. Red Dog is not a bad option to go up forward. I think he's probably a little bit smaller, but he's going to create something. I mean, if they're looking at Red Dog not playing as a half backer, then wing or half forward is much more exciting than midfield.
One question to that is, was Pryor his replacement?
I think so, yes.
Well, then I'd rather Redmond as a defender over Pryor. Pryor really did not impress me at all.
No, and I would guess they're probably a similar height, similar sort of size player.
As a guess, yeah.
Yeah, as a guess without
knowing.
Only
we had a spreadsheet, yeah.
If only we had a spreadsheet that we could look at and go,
I haven't even got it open. Like,
yeah.
This is the most...
But I would say they're the similar players. Whereas I would thought Archie Roberts is probably slightly smaller.
Well, maybe Archie Roberts is the trial forward then. Like, you know, you've got a couple of options there who are small and...
Can I throw one other out there?
Saad
Al-Halawi.
Oh, yes, classy. Well, again, from what we've seen, VFL classy.
Well, he kicked 5 goals and had 20-something possessions in his last game before he got injured in the VFL. Now, that's only sort of stuff that massive MD Martin can do.
BDE, you mean?
Yeah, whatever it is. So, I mean...
So there's options, is what we're saying here. There's options to change it up a little bit.
Yep. And the other one, obviously, is Ridley.
Ridley out, yes, which creates an issue because the nice simple swap would have been Pryor out and then just bring in another... Well, probably Pryor for Gresham, really, you'd say, and then pick someone else's sub.
What about Hayes?
Maybe too tall? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so too, yeah.
We're playing Adelaide at the G, so if it's west, that's going to be an issue.
So they've got Tex Walker, Phil Thorpe.
They still have Tex, my God.
Yeah, I know, he's got to be 50. Tex Walker, Phil Thorpe, and Fogarty, Fogarty's like not a massive unit, but he's always solid.
He has games though, doesn't he?
Mm.
Yeah.
So I tell you, you'd need to go in with 3. Obviously, Mackay on Tex Walker is a pretty straight matchup there. Thilthorpe and Reed, but I think Thilthorpe will be too strong for Reed personally because he's a pretty massive unit. Then it's the Fogarty one, which you would want a fairly solid unit or someone that's a fair bit taller than him.
Well, yeah, Fogarty's 192, Hayes is 199.
Yeah, but Fogarty's would be. I know they don't do weight anymore, but he'd be in the. Yeah, he's thick-thighed.
Well, apparently he's 100 kilos, but that might be outdated.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't surprise me though. He's a good size.
Yes, he is. Look, I don't know what we do for Ridley. I made a comment to you partway through the game that this top-end talent conversation keeps coming back to me. Isn't it, with the clubs looking for top-end talent, which is fantastic because that's how you win premierships.
It does handy to have good players.
But it's reactive, and I fully hold my hands up and say that. It is totally reactive. But there are just guys, as in I'm reacting to one game. I'm throwing my hands up and going off based off one game, one moment, one whatever.
Gotcha, sorry.
There are just guys who, as Essendon supporters, generally speaking, we all love, i.e. Ridley. He made several mistakes, and I just sat there and went, maybe he's not. Maybe he's just not that top-end talent we all think he is. One, I don't think he's played a lot over the last, probably since Dreamtime. I think he got injured in Dreamtime last year.
Yep.
So maybe I've just forgotten. Maybe he's just a little bit rusty. But I just go, maybe, do we overkill all these players? Shields another one.
Shields and one for me that I think that...
I don't think anyone thinks he's brilliant, though, to be fair.
No, but I watched that game and I was like, look, you've been training as a halfback. You're meant to do a few better things than what you did in this game. And that moment where he just didn't go in front of the player coming at the ball and they got the ball and ran away, I was like, look, I don't care.
You got to put your body on the line.
If you're not putting the body on the line as a backliner, that's what you have to do in the backline. You have to run back with the fly of the ball sometimes and get crunched.
And I will call out, Redmond did that very early in the first quarter. It was very impressive. You just sit there and go, well done. You've done the right thing there.
Yep.
And he got up and he was okay, thankfully.
Yeah.
But there's just points in a game of football where you've got to put your body on the line. And also on Shield, I don't think he actually had a drop punt that spun right for the entire game. Horrible. Which is just shocking.
But anyway, we're clearly trying to do that. We see that as a weakness. We don't have a kicking halfback that works. And we need one. And they've tried Shield. And if this doesn't work by round 12, then I think it's Merritt's the next option, to be honest. We've
got midfielders coming out of our backsides, I guess.
As long as we don't stick defenders in the midfield, like
McGrath, Redmond,
Yeah.
I don't hate that. I think you're taking Merritt away from a position where he's very damaging for the sake of the future, though, which is the other side of it. I would take joy seeing Sardis in there.
And Hobbs.
Less so Hobbs. I'm more on Sardis right now. Hobbs was very good in that Geelong game. I take nothing away, but Sardis looks like he can take that next step. So let's give him the opportunity to. And if that means Merritt does play on the back line, well, okay. At least you got a very good ball user.
Well, if you look at the stats,
Merritt kicked 2 goals. So,
but if you look at the stats too, the top 3 CBAs after Red Dog got kicked out was Caldwell, Merritt, and Stardust. Well, sorry, it was Merritt and Durham were equal, and it was Caldwell and Stardust were the 2 main dogs in there.
That's good. That's what I want to see. Your point. Yeah. While we're not challenging for premiership, no Essendon supporter is sitting out there going, geez, we can win it this year.
Nope. Not after that game.
Let's chuck some just do it. Fucking hell. Anyway, sorry. To sum up, who replaces Ridley? I think it'll be one of 2. Either Gresham starts and we just don't change anything. We just have Roberts and Redmond backs with Pryor. Or it'll be Hayes. Yep. One of the 2.
Yeah,
depending on the weather.
Well, I guess the unknown, and this might jump a bit ahead of the conversation, is the VFL played Friday night. I couldn't find any information about it. I'm not on Twitter, as you know.
We were a long way behind, then we were level, and then we lost by a bit.
Oh. Any reports on who played well? Or?
No, I haven't seen it. I've been busy. I'm sorry. I usually try and just suss out Twitter, but...
Same, as I said, I'm not on any social media, so I don't. That's where all that sort of stuff is pushed to, but they can't just put it on the website like, old-fashioned read about in the paper.
Yeah. Saturday next week's 29 degrees and a bit of rain. So, to sum up, typical Melbourne, God knows.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess what I'm getting to is I would have if I'm picking a Ridley replacement, it's Hayes I'm personally, if it's just me, I'm dropping Pryor. Not good enough. I think I'd like to see a bit of VFL form before he comes back. I'd rather have a Al Halwi or Hayes play as a backliner.
Don't hate that.
Yep. Than what I saw there, because at least with Al Halwi, we get run and carry, which
and a bit of poise and a bit of skill. He's got a very nice kick on him,
and he can go forward if there's something going on, and you can stick him forward. And maybe worst thing you do is Martin goes back again, and you just go back to that for what we did last year. But
Martin was largely ineffective. Like he didn't do a lot.
No, he's not got first half.
And maybe they put some work into him. That's reasonable because he's very damaging. But yeah, look, can we do some votes and then crack on?
Let's do.
So we're doing the post again on the Facebook page, which is called the Don Pod. If you get the closest margin and you're the first, if there's multiples, then you can give us some votes. So young Angus, who has won this several times before, Angus, I'm going to start putting bets on based on what young Angus says. He gave 3 to Caldwell, 2 to Merritt, and 1 to Dersma, which don't think you'd have too many arguments there.
Yep.
You go, break it up.
No, well, I went Caldwell. Obviously, I think awesome game from him. Like we haven't talked about him enough.
Clearly
at
best
all.
on. Yeah.
Yes, but I mean, I think he's in that position now. He's a senior player. He's up to that 70 games or so. We'll look forward to the future. The next 200 games with him, he's going to be unreal. Number 1 midfielder, there, done.
Mm-hmm.
Merritt, 2 goals and 20, like less possessions, but 2. I don't know when he's kicked 2 goals before. Like,
not very often.
And I'm going to give 1 to Kako. It's a bit random, but just loved what he brings that forward line, that buzz, that energy. That he's going to be a massive player, I think, for the future. So I gave him 1.
Yep, that's fine. Don't disagree at all. I shouldn't try and fix stuff while I'm talking to you. I'll go 3 to Caldwell. I think it'll be foolish not to. I gave 2 to Dersma. I thought he was doing a lot for us defensively. He gets up and down the ground really well, and I really appreciate the hard-working player, particularly when it's hard-working defensively.
Yep.
And I did give Gresham a vote, and this is me partially because I really was against him entirely 2 weeks ago, and I was just really impressed with how he played when he came on. So. Could have been Merritt, you're right, he had a very good game. Could have been Archie Roberts, I thought he was great. Could have been Perkins, he had a great second half.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been Draper, maybe he was good.
I think to go towards what you're saying about Dersma too, is that with him and Jones rolling up and down the wings, they do give us great help in the back 6. Like, Jones gets back there too really well and takes those marks or competes back there too.
Jones too,
Yeah, he does that really well. So there's some players I think, we talk about that top end talent. There's some players I think consistently play pretty decent footy. But what we don't yet have at the club, and this is put an asterisk on Merritt, is those 2 or 3 guys that really just can't be stopped. Like, that's
your
what we're still
Bontempellis,
missing.
your Cripps,
the Cripps, those guys. And Merritt's been really, really good, but I don't know if he'll ever go down as one of those Bontempelli Cripps type plays. He's going to win a ridiculous amount of best and fairest at Essendon, but
they are different players. You're right.
Yeah. Until we get that sorted, I still think we're a long way away.
Yep, that's fair. I struggle so much because the expectation wasn't that high, but yet I was still pretty disappointed, particularly with that first half. Oh yeah, first quarter. Yeah, you're right.
Well, first half we lost the first half. But we got flogged in the first quarter.
Yeah, we did. And after,
I don't know if we. Sorry.
I was going to say, after Kako kicked the first goal, there's a lot about football that's in the head, like mental approach, which is not new. You think your prize recruit from the draft, Essendon supporter his whole life, good kid, looks like a good kid, kicks his first goal, the first goal of the game. You just think there'd be a bit more of a bump in the mood of the players, and I don't know. Can we quickly go around the grounds?
Yes.
And I only want to go back to Thursday night and just talk about Carlton. And maybe Port Adelaide a little bit, and just point out Fremantle as well. It could be worse.
Fremantle
were bitterly disappointing. Port were bitterly disappointing. But Carlton, this is a team who were not meant to win a game this year. They were $10 to win if you look at betting. The Sun has better odds of coming up. Worse odds than coming up tomorrow than what Carlton had to win that game of football. Like they were $1.04, and
they were $1.04. Were they really?
Yeah. If you put $10 on them, you win 40 cents. That's the sort of vibes the betting agencies were giving. And not only that, you were then 41 points up, and Richmond were barely given a yelp. Yeah, and we were all kind of sitting there going, "Well, that's disappointing, but not unexpected."
Mm.
Like, all right, we'll watch it and no worries.
Yeah.
You and I stopped talking at halftime because I just thought,
it was late.
Watch the third quarter and then I'll maybe chuff off to bed. Yeah, it was a Thursday night. That's right. Oh my God, Sash Bros over there at Richmond. I quite like that. I love that term until we play them. Geez, it's all well and good until they beat us.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Partially my hatred for Carlton in this, of course, but Jesus, their kids were good. How excited would you be being a Richmond supporter just to see your team do that? You know what it reminds me of? Essendon and Melbourne in 2016 when we didn't have the players and we beat Melbourne in round 2.
Yep.
And it was just such an overwhelming experience because Parrish kicked the winning goal. He was a kid at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, was it Laylor that celebrated so hard his cock fell out?
That's not.
If you haven't seen it, it's not that exciting, but it's really funny.
Now, the one I want to just quickly talk about is your fucking flag mantle.
Flag mantle. Sorry, just one more thing. The backflip celebration and then saying good night to the Carlton cheer squad. You have my respect. You have my respect forever, sir.
Actually.
Go, flag mantle, yes.
Flag mantle. Yeah. They're going to have to sack a coach. I'm sorry.
What was bizarre about that? I sort of tuned in at the end of the third quarter, and that young Reed, really, he kicked 4 goals in about 4 minutes of actual time, and they got within about 20 points. And I thought, geez, we're on here.
Yeah,
checked it again half an hour later. Geelong had a 10-goal quarter, and they won by 12 goals.
You look at the quality though of players at Freo.
Yep.
Like, I don't know if this Jackson's any good or not. I'm still...
Jury's out. Apparently he's coming back to Victoria.
Well, what?
Apparently. That's the rumour.
Why?
That's the rumour.
Because he's a spud and he just chases money.
It's a rumour.
I don't think he's a good football player. I'm going out on a limb and saying he needs a big ruckman behind him. Like, he's a good forward/ruckman, not a ruckman/forward.
But you need the number one ruckman in Darcy.
He needs like a Darcy to support him.
Yep.
Like you got Chera and
no, they don't have
Brayshaw. Sorry, not Chera. The other one. Sarong and Brayshaw. Like, they've got good players. They've got good defenders, good forward.
Alex Pearce was one of the better defenders last year.
But then flogged by nearly 80 points. I know it's at the category, but they've had a great record down there.
Sorry, if you're a good team, you can lose. You're allowed to lose games of football, but 70-something points. And
the last one was the Port. Yeah, like Port, that's nearly 100 points.
Could have been it was
91 points. Yeah, and this is the issue I have with. I talked about this with someone, not you, but what happens with Port Adelaide? I know I talked footy with one other person. I think it was at work.
Wow.
What happens with Port Adelaide if they get to round 4 or 5? They've already said the coach is not there next year.
Yeah, you and I touched on this briefly, I think.
Oh, well, maybe it was. I don't know.
I think if you get to that point, you just bring Josh Carr in. You just go,
what?
Sorry, Ken. We're not making finals. We're going to start that rebuild now. We're going to start from now rather than in 6 months' time.
It's just. I don't like that we've signed Scott on for an extra year, or 2, whatever. I don't like that. I would say no. Let's see where we're going in 2026. Like, if that's when he contracted, let's see how we're going at the end of 2025 first, and then before we give him more years. Like, if Essendon are bottom 4 again this year, I'd be like, fucking another 2 years of him.
The only response, we have a bad run of re-signing coaches because I'm pretty sure we re-signed Worsfold and then sacked him.
Yep.
Not long after.
Yep.
Or
I don't think we did it with Truck.
No, we didn't do it with Truck. But I think the logic with re-signing coaches now, and St Kilda did it with Ross Lyon as well, which is an even worse decision because I wholeheartedly believe they're in a worse position than us.
Yeah, they're. But
is because of Tasmania. Now, if Brad Scott wanted to walk to Tassie,
that's my view on this.
I don't know. What Brad Scott's done for us is, and the whole club has changed into a more stable environment. Yes. Which will get us a lot further down the track than what having Truck and a shitty attitude towards life.
Yep.
But I'm with you. Sorry, I'm with you on the fact that why now? You could have had this conversation in 12 months' time.
Exactly.
But
My point on that is that if he wants to walk to Tassie, let him fucking walk. Like, if he thinks that the club, if say if we were a good team or look better at the end of this year and better even again the year after that, and he walks to Tassie, he'll say, well, good, thanks. We're on our way. We'll just get someone else to drive us the last way home.
Yeah,
But if he thinks he can go to Tassie and what? Well, there's not, like, Gold Coast haven't been able to do it, get success. GWS haven't done it yet. Won the premiership. Like, who's the last club that's come in and won one?
Freo didn't do it. Like West Coast and Adelaide won premierships relatively early on, didn't they?
But that's a different competition.
Oh yeah, very. I'm just saying, for a new club to come in.
The last two, Gold Coast haven't even won a final yet, is it?
No, they haven't made finals.
Yep. And GWS have played in a couple of grand finals, but they have had ridiculous amounts of talent roll through that team. Like,
Totally agree. Next week, we play the Crom, who are playing at the moment and doing a very, very, very easy job over St Kilda. Look, at the G is a bit funny. We have only ever played Adelaide at Marvel the last as long as I can remember. Yes, it's at the G, which I'm quite excited for. I much prefer going to the G Banger.
Yep.
Adelaide looked good. I hadn't really thought of them as a top 8 side until probably the last week or two.
Yep.
They've got some real talent there.
Good side.
The G helps us a little bit. I think we have good matchups that we talked about earlier for their key forwards. What I would worry about is a guy like Rankin.
Yep. Dawson.
Jordan Dawson, very big body, very talented, very polished footballer.
Yep.
But they have another small forward.
Yeah.
Rochelle.
Rochelle. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I think their forward line's an absolute weapon with...
but it's the smalls, not the talls, which hurts us even more.
Well, it's a bit of both, because Walker is still an annoyingly pretty good player. It'd be good if we could get an older player to stay at the club and still be good. Anyway, Walker, Thilthorpe and Folgers, we talked about earlier, are all really good players. They're small forwards. Saligo gets a bit through there, but he runs through the midfield a bit more. Josh Worrell, guys like that are going to Rankin. He's for midfield and goes forward too now, but they've got some really classy movers. Dawson is one of the better players in the competition. That kick of his, he hits targets 50 metres away and hits them on the chest. Like, he is elite. Yeah. So, look, I would say after this game, no, we're not going to beat them, is my early prediction.
Okay. I think it being at the G helps us, like I said. I
agree.
The smalls concern me more than the talls. I think with a guy like Walker, you might get some goals. You might also get a real stinker because of the age and because of the inconsistencies might start to come back in. Thilthorpe's the one that worries me most because he's so much. He's like Caddy. He's tall, but then he's got that reach.
Yeah,
as well.
He's 200 centimetres and
makes him very good.
He's a big boy.
He's probably a better matchup for Reid, though, I'd say, than what Chol was.
Yeah, he's not as
mobile, whereas Chol's quite mobile.
Yep. Still pretty mobile, but yeah, not as
Chol's kicking style.
Quick for a 200 centimetre guy.
Yeah, Chol's kicking style shits me to tears. But anyway, it's just so laconic. It works. Fair enough. Yeah. Any changes other than the ones we've talked about already? Just the forced Langford Ridley.
I will drop prior to, but that's. I just don't. I was that couple of contests. He lost nearly every one-on-one we saw, and that concerns me.
There's been a lot of love for Johnson, one of our pickups, Day Wicks.
Yep.
So, I mean,
again,
we have a history of not playing these guys too early. Hayes has been great, seemingly, in the VFL for a year and a half.
Best and fairest.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. All right, tip.
What do I have to? Adelaide, but I have to tip us by 12.
Dons by 12. What a surprise.
I
have a bit more faith. I think if Adelaide are going to... how do I word it? They're still quite young, so maybe there's a bit of an inconsistency there. They're quite good at the moment right now. We should have pointed this out off the top, actually. We were the youngest team named this week.
But the concerning thing is that we talked about, that was probably our best team named.
Yes, but we were also the youngest. So I'm just... Anyway.
Look, I'm not sure how to read that. Like,
Essendon after the siren to win it, with Kako kicking one from the boundary. Right in front of where we sit.
Yep. Hopefully we didn't get any other injuries.
No injuries would be nice. Zach Reid getting through the game completely would be nice.
Yeah, Zach Reed got through one game.
That's
as you talked about, just
worthy
quickly,
of celebration.
Reed, Mackay, and Ridley got to play a half a game instead of together. That's the first. That's part of the problem is that we
just can't get. Well, we talked about it too in the preseason against Geelong. They just knew what each other were doing. We still don't.
No, that's right. We haven't played 30, 40, 50, 60 games together. That has to happen.
There's just a real lack of synergy.
Yep.
And it cost us, even when we did win the clearances, we would give it back to them pretty quickly because we just...
2 players were going for the ball.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
There was a moment, I think it was Draper and maybe Sardis or something sort of bumped into each other or tapped the ball away from each other.
Yeah. First game of VFL is coming up this weekend as well, like season proper on Saturday. We play Saturday early afternoon, so it'll be interesting when that VFL game actually is.
That'd be annoying for...
We're 1:20 on Saturday. Oh, I swear to God, if they played them at the same time,
they probably
frustrate the shit out of me. All right, all done.
Yep.
Thanks for tuning in. I'm sorry for upsetting you earlier. Truly.
Sorry for upsetting you.
You didn't upset me. That's okay. I was the dick, not you. Thanks for tuning in. I don't think we'll preview this week, will we? Thursday.
We'll see how we feel.
See how we go. Okay, we're not committing to that. There you go. Yep. Thanks for tuning in, and I have to resort to go Dons.
Go Bombers.